Welcome to Breaking Down Bergman. I'm David Friend.
I'm Sonia Strimban.
And this is our look at Brink of Life.
Det är Magistrelius. Jag ringde hit för en halvtimme sedan och talade med en doktor Karlsson. Och han rådde mig att ringa efter ambulans och komma hit omedelbart.
Det var er fru som hade fått blödningar?
Ja.
Syster Marie.
Fru Elius.
Hur känns det nu, fru Elius?
Det har så ont.
Kommer det som riktiga verkar?
Det är ont, så det är borta ett tag. Så gör det ont igen och så blöder det.
Ja, nu kommer doktorn snart och undersöker fru Elius. Det går bra att sitta ner och vänta så länge.
Tack. Nu ska du bara vara tapper flicka, så ska du se att det här ordnar sig. Jag stannar så länge så vet att jag finns här och kan komma på ögonblicket. Kom ihåg nu, Cici. Elius expects his wife to do her duty.
Vill du verkligen ha det här barnet, Anders?
Cici, lilla.
Jag måste få veta det. Nu äntligen måste jag få veta. Förut har jag inte velat veta, men nu måste jag.
Du och jag kan varken göra till eller från i den här situationen, Cici. Det är bara läkarna som kan göra något och de kommer att göra allt för att hjälpa dig. Och om det står i mänsklig makt att rädda barnet så kommer det att räddas. Överlämna det bara som ett paket i läkarnas händer. Ett stort kolli med ett litet kolli i sig, va?
Brink of Life, which was made in 1958, comes on the heels of several films that Bergman made for television. Some of them were shorter than a full-length movie, but he had been working in the space of TV, sometimes converting stage plays for the screen. And I think there's a lot of influence of those television productions, which we haven't seen because a lot of them aren't available, in Brink of Life.
You mean in terms of his directorial approach?
Yeah, just the look of it. There's a lot of really close-up shots of the actresses. A lot of the scenes take place in one setting, which keeps the budget low. But Bergman received a lot of recognition for this one. In fact, he was back at the Cannes Film Festival again with a director recognition and also a recognition for the ensemble female leads of the movie.
That's pretty impressive. Now, you know that I wasn't, throughout our viewing of the film, its biggest fan. But I do have to admit it has power, so I just don't want our viewers to think that because we say it's kind of like a TV film, that it's in any way a made-for-TV movie or anything like that.
No, but there certainly are a lot of those staples of the Bergman movies, and in fact, this could be one of his most depressing films so far, just because there is so much tragedy and struggle within such a confined space and somewhat in a confined space of time too.
I think most notably it reminded me of Secrets of Women, where we have a very close-knit group of women all in one setting, all within one time frame, and they each share sort of stories or vignette type scenes from their personal lives that lead us to understand why and how they got to where they are right now. It's really another attempt from Bergman to shoot the film and create a story and really a fabric within the film that is entirely from the female perspective. And you know, as a male director, I think that's a very bold effort.
It's also important to note, in my opinion, that these aren't his stories. At least the source material are not Bergman's stories. Author Ulla Isaksson was the one who sort of structured what is here. Now, Bergman added characters, including one of the main characters, to the tale, but it really isn't his own, in some ways.
And I don't see how it can be, just because of the focal point of the film is around the experience of women during pregnancy and childbirth. You know, and I really got caught up in that. It kind of, I guess, bothered me a little bit, because I felt that as a male director, it's not his story to tell. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't really know how you can say that, but make your point clear.
It's hard to make it clear, perhaps because I'm a woman and of how, I almost want to use the word violent. Like, this movie was violent in many ways, not in the sense that it's a slasher film, but just the way that he portrayed the anguish and despair. Like, it was very masterfully done, and that's part of the power of it. But it's such a woman's experience, you know, childbirth and pregnancy. And here he is, not only depicting one woman and her experience with childbirth, but 4 different women and their experiences from different perspectives and unique situations. It's just, he just allows himself so much speculation on the topic that I almost feel that, you know, he can't possibly get it right.
Okay, I kind of see where you're coming from. And we have the 4 female characters here, and they are going through things that, in my opinion, from your perspective, are very personal experiences in a way
exclusive. They're exclusive to women. A man cannot have the same emotion or psychological or even, well, maybe philosophical, yeah, okay, understanding of what it means to be pregnant, to have a life growing inside you, and then to try and give birth to it or to lose that life. Like, just, you can't co-opt that.
But I also think that debate on this film also sort of cancels out some of the films that we've already seen, because Bergman has dealt with abortion, which Brink of Life deals with fully. It deals with miscarriage, it deals with abortion, it deals with things that Bergman has addressed previously, but it does so in a harsher, more honest way. And maybe, is it the honesty that you have a problem with?
I had such a guttural response to this film. It made me upset, not in a sad way, but more like in an antagonistic way. And I don't know why I had the reaction to the film, because it's not a bad film. It's masterfully shot, it's powerful, the imagery in the film and the devastation of the women is almost violent in its own subtlety. Like, it's incredibly well done. But my personal response to the film was, you can't do that. I don't know why.
One of the things that I think is interesting is that when we talk about Bergman, we always discuss how these films are typically personal to Bergman, personal to his experiences, and somewhere in his past he's conjured up what is on the screen. And I think that perhaps Bergman had some issues with maybe abortion, with miscarriages, with his previous with the previous women in his life. But we don't know, because the evidence isn't in books, like a lot of the other evidence is. We don't have the physical diaries or anything like that. But if we are to believe Bergman's art on the screen, then we kind of have to believe that Bergman had direct experience with some of this.
Maybe he was more sensitive to the situation because he either experienced it firsthand or he just somehow intuitively is more empathetic. Because I think there are a lot of things in this film that are very unique. I really like the way that I find that there's this very subtle juxtaposition of how he presents the women in the film. The experience of, of being with child and of giving birth, it puts the woman in such a unique position of power and terrible fragility that it's almost unbalancing when you watch it as a viewer. At least that's how I felt. It was unsettling.
Do you have a problem with Bergman in some ways having that power as the director? He's taking the power of this story, the power away from the women, and telling the story as he sees it? Maybe
it's because the whole movie, the way it was shot, it was so caged. It almost felt like these 4 women, the whole thing is shot in the maternity ward, but he makes it feel like an asylum. There's this male doctor presiding over them the whole time, and he's so clinical and focused on his charts. And, even when he delivers the news to the Eva Dahlbeck character, who, out of the 3 women, is the most looking forward to her child. The scenes with her actually trying to give birth when she is in labor are terrifying and gruesome and cruel almost. And the fact that he robs her of this, that contradiction of her joy and then her despair is so acute. I don't know, I just feel like I can't even, I'm stuttering, but I can't even explain how it made me feel. It was very impactful and not mean, but just cruel.
There is something about this film that differentiates it from a lot of other Bergman movies, and I think one of the key points is that he literally introduces us to the harshness of the story that he's going to tell from the get-go. We start with a scene where there's a sick child and we don't fully understand the story. There's sort of creepy imagery of this doll which isn't fully explained but sort of symbolizes some sort of death
or brokenness
or soullessness or something. It's very vague, but it definitely has a message that gets to the viewer, and then it just rolls from there. We see one of the women going through this terrible miscarriage.
Yeah, and even the way he sets it up, because we know she's losing her baby. We know she's in the process of losing her baby, and she's desperately crying out for help, and no one is helping her. So it's almost it's almost like a horror film feeling in a way, because there's this, like you said, this mood of creepiness, but also this mood of, you know, like when you're in a bad dream or in a horror movie and you're trying to run but you're not moving. So you know that she desperately needs help, and she's in a hospital, in the maternity ward with the people that are capable of helping her, but they're just not there.
There's a lot of male characters that are present in a way that they're not. We see one who appears for a brief visit to his wife before he disappears for the rest of the film. We hear another man, a boyfriend, on the phone discussing with his girlfriend who accidentally got pregnant, basically, about, you know, how he could possibly get rid of the baby. And there's some hints about a past abortion that was kind of done on the shadier side, I guess we could say. The men in this film, as Bergman presents them, are pretty despicable characters. And I think that that's interesting when you talk about how he presents the women, because there is a possibility, just speculating again, about how Bergman fits himself into the story, that Bergman is one of those men and has that guilt, that same sort of guilt that he's projected in so many of his other films in different ways.
But as a whole, the male characters are not given even remotely the same attention as the female characters. So I think they're just kind of sketched out just to be there. And I think what we can really take away from that is that Bergman is saying to us that men are not present in the woman's experience during this time. And whether he's just stating that as a matter of fact or as a matter of criticism, I'm not entirely sure.
I think it's criticism, because I think if you go back to this movie and watch it again, I think that while they're not in the film and they're not very addressed very often, they really do contribute to the isolation of the female characters, just as the set, that single room setting that much of the film takes place in, contributes to the isolation of these characters. It's all very calculated. And I mean, this is a difficult Bergman film in ways that some of his other ones aren't. It's one that you leave feeling despondent, and I feel as a viewer it's the kind of film that you can't really have a positive reaction to. But it's interesting, and I think it's more a footnote in Bergman's career. What do you think?
It's definitely not a film I would watch again. Not by choice.
So not essential Bergman?
I don't know. No, not essential Bergman, although powerful, but very depressing. I think one thing that we didn't quite mention is the performances of the women, which I know we said that they won awards for. Obviously, the performances were powerful. But for me, particularly unique was Eva Dahlbeck's performance, because we have typically to date have seen her as a great actress, but mostly in comedic roles. And in this film, she just blew me away.
Det är redan så långt kommet.
Det är inget uppehåll alls mellan verkarna.
Knappast alls.
Nu har verken släppt nu.
Det gör ont ändå. Herregud, inte visste jag att det var så svårt. Mamma lilla. Mamma lilla.
Brink of Life, perhaps not the most lighthearted discussion we've had, but an interesting note in Bergman's career, and I'd really like to see where he takes this influence of television that he's been working with, that real focus on characters and that drama within the specific character structure. I think he could really grow with that from here.
It'll be interesting to see. And we'd love to hear from you, so visit our Facebook page or subscribe to our channel and comment, because I'd like to hear if other people had a similar reaction to the movie that I did.
Yeah, or if you just have to vent about how heavy this film was, we'll be listening. So thanks for watching Breaking Down Bergman. We'll see you next time when we take a look at the movie The Magician, which hopefully will be a little bit
More entertaining?
lighter. I'm going to go with lighter.
Lighter, agreed.